Today is May 5th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It's a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today, out of the Big Book, out of the core text, we're going to be continuing our journey through more about alcoholism by reading pages 39 and 40. And out of the personal stories, They Stopped in Time, we're going to read story number 12, Winner Takes All, pages 376 through 378. And finally, out of the 12 and 12, we're going to continue our journey through tradition number 12. Today, we are going to be reading page 134. So with all that, I hope you're doing well, my friends. We've been given a brand new set of 24 hours, and it's up to us, again, who we decide to be today. We can learn a lot of great, valuable lessons from yesterday. And today, I want to look for some joy. I want to look at the world with awe and wonder. I had a friend real quick that said, if you look for the negatives, you're going to find it. If you look for the positives, you're going to find it. It's a choice. So with all that, let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. So if you recall from yesterday's reading out of the core text, more about alcoholism, we read a couple pages yesterday about jaywalking, what seems like such a ridiculous example, right? And it is ridiculous. We're constantly going out there just hurting ourselves even more, and we're swearing we won't do it again. And what do? We do it again. And the final point that Bill was making yesterday was, hey, what about the people who haven't hit that low yet, hit that bottom yet? You tell us, it says right here on the bottom of 38, yes, what you tell us is true, but it doesn't fully apply. We admit we have some of these symptoms, but have not gone to the extremes as you fellows did. Nor are we likely to. For we understand ourselves so well after what you have told us that such things cannot happen again. Well, one thing is for certain, this book talks about how, at least for alcoholism, self-knowledge isn't usually enough. There's a little bit more to it in being able to obtain sobriety for alcoholics. That just because I haven't served jail time yet or lost my family yet doesn't mean it won't happen. Because I am an alcoholic. And if I continue to put that stuff in my body, all those things are in my future. So we're going to build on that idea by reading 39 and 40. That may be true of certain non-alcoholic people who, though drinking foolishly and heavily at the present time, are able to stop or moderate because their brains and bodies have not been damaged as ours were. But the actual or potential alcoholic, with hardly an exception, will be absolutely unable to stop drinking on the basis of self-knowledge. This is a point we wish to emphasize and re-emphasize, to smash home upon our alcoholic readers as it has been revealed to us out of bitter experience. Let us take another illustration. Fred is a partner in a well-known accounting firm. His income's good. He has a fine home, is happily married, and the father of promising children of college age. He has so attractive a personality that he makes friends with everyone. If ever there was a successful businessman, it is Fred. To all appearance, he is a stable, well-balanced individual. Yet he is alcoholic. We first saw Fred about a year ago in a hospital where he had gone to recover from a bad case of jitters. It was his first experience of this kind, and he was much ashamed of it. Far from admitting he was an alcoholic, he told himself he came to the hospital to rest his nerves. The doctor intimated strongly that he might be worse than he realized. For a few days he was depressed about his condition. He made up his mind to quit drinking altogether. It never occurred to him that perhaps he could not do so, in spite of his character and standing. Fred would not believe himself an alcoholic, much less accept a spiritual remedy for his problem. We told him what we knew about alcoholism. He was interested and conceded that he had some of the symptoms, but he was a long way from admitting that he could do nothing about it himself. He was positive that his humiliating experience, plus the knowledge that he'd acquired, would keep him sober for the rest of his life. Self-knowledge would fix it. We heard no more of Fred for a while. One day we were told that he was back in the hospital. This time he was quite shaky. He soon indicated that he was anxious to see us. The story he told us is most instructive, for here was a chap absolutely convinced that he had to stop drinking, who had no excuse for drinking, who exhibited splendid judgment and determination in all of his other concerns, yet was flat on his back nevertheless. Let him tell you about it. I was much impressed with what you fellows said about alcoholism, and I frankly did not believe that it would be possible for me to drink again. I rather appreciated your ideas about the subtle insanity which precedes the first drink, but I was confident that it could not happen to me after what I had learned. I reasoned that I was not so far advanced as most of you fellows, that I had been usually successful in licking my other personal problems, and that I would therefore be successful where you men failed. I felt that I had every right to be self-confident, that it would only be a matter of exercising my willpower and keeping on guard. In this frame of mind, I went about my business, and for a time all was well. I had no trouble refusing drinks and began to wonder if I had not been making too hard work of a simple matter. One day I went to Washington to present some accounting evidence to a government bureau. I had been out of town before during this particular dry spell, so there was nothing new about that. Physically, I felt fine. Neither did I have any pressing problems or worries. My business came off well. I was pleased and knew that my partners would be too. It was the end of a perfect day, and not a cloud on the horizon. So, my friends, I guess you can already see where this might be going. It's a beautiful day, not a cloud on the horizon. Well, stay tuned. Alright, moving on over to the personal stories. So, our friend from yesterday in Winner Takes All, she is a blind woman that it kind of explains the backstory of her family and how her mother and father lost their first son through a tragedy. And we could already get the sense that maybe, just maybe, that plays a part in some of the convictions our friend might have. So we're going to continue the story on pages 376 and read up to 378. From the very beginning, I felt different and unwanted. At a very young age, as children do, I had to make sense out of my life. So I came to the conclusion that I was bad, and God knew I was bad. So God made me handicapped to punish me. I thought that the undertow of sadness in my family was because of me. Later, I realized that part of it might have been due to my handicap, but still there was a lot of grieving going on. My father turned to alcohol and was a very angry man. When we were growing up, he was very critical. I was told things on a daily basis like I was dumb and lazy. When I started school, I truly realized how different I was from other children. Children were very cruel and made fun of me. I could tell you many stories of times that I was treated badly, and although the stories would be different, the feeling was always the same. I was not good enough, and I hurt. Special education was mostly for the mentally retarded, so I did not get much support from my teachers, though there were two teachers who made a difference in my life. One was a third grade teacher who got me large print books. It felt so good that someone understood that I had a problem, but that was overruled by the embarrassment that I felt trying to carry those big books around. The other teacher was a freshman high school teacher who flunked me. It was as if I heard her say, "You can do better." All the other teachers just let me pass, whether I knew the material or not. When I got out of high school, I felt as if I had gotten out of some kind of prison. I graduated 150th out of a class of 152, and I felt that I was dumb. It was during my high school years that I discovered alcohol, and my problems were over. Now I was pretty and smart. For the first time, I felt as if I fit in. I still could not see. Oh well, no big deal. I felt good. I got married and had 2 children. I married a man who was not or could not be honest. For several years after we were married, I didn't drink. My sister went through a divorce and moved to the town that I was living in. To be a good sister, I went out with her, for she knew no one in the town. We went to a country western place that had a beer bust. You just paid a certain amount to get in, and you could drink all you wanted to drink. I thought I had arrived in heaven. We did this several times a week, And then she started meeting people and started dating. Well, I couldn't drive, so I started drinking more and more at home. Several years later, alcohol had control of my life. I had a t-shirt that I just loved. It said, "I used to hate myself in the morning. Now I sleep till noon." That described my feelings totally. When my daughter had to go to the hospital, I stayed sober for the 5 days that she was there and told myself that I had licked this alcohol problem. On the way home from the hospital, I got drunk again. I cannot tell you the number of times I tried to stop on my own. My son would look at me and say, "Mom, why do you have to drink so much?" He was about 11 years old at the time. So one night, I got on my knees and I said, "God, change me or let me die." It was at this point in my life that I called Alcoholics Anonymous and asked for help. They sent 2 ladies over to my house. They sat with me and I told them that I drank because my marriage was bad. One of the ladies held my hand and said, "That's not why you drink." I told them that I drank because I was part German. She patted my hand and said, "No, that's not why you drink." And then I told them that I drank because I was legally blind. They said, "No, that's not why you drink." And they started to explain to me that alcoholism is a disease. They shared their stories with me and told me how alcohol had taken over their lives. I started going to meetings and my story sounded so dull next to some of the stories I heard. The most interesting thing that I could think to tell was about the time my friends, who were also drunk, let me drive the car. I almost got us all killed, but what fun! Legally blind, drunk, and behind the wheel of a car? God was really taking care of me and the other people on the road that night. I just didn't know it at the time. The truth is, most of my drinking was done at home, alone. I would call people and talk, and the following mornings were awful, trying to piece together what I had said. I would say things to my husband like, "Wasn't that an interesting call last night?" hoping that he would volunteer information. My hands were beginning to shake without the alcohol. Yet when I got to AA, I wasn't sure I belonged because my drunkalog was not exciting. Then one night at an AA meeting, a friend said that even though he had been in jail and done lots and lots of stuff, he was no different from me. He felt the same things I felt. It was then that I knew that I was not unique, that the people did understand the pain inside me. I met a lady who had had a handicapped child, and we learned so much from each other. One important thing that I learned was that handicapped is not a 4-letter word. Handicapped is not a dirty word. I learned that I was not bad, that I was one of God's special children, that God had a plan for my life. The people of AA showed me how my past could and would become an asset. I got a sponsor and started working the steps. The promises of the big book started coming true for me. The feeling of uselessness and self-pity went away, and I could see how my experiences could help others. All right, so I read a little bonus paragraph there, free of charge. Great stuff. Can't wait to come back to this in just a second. And finally, out of the 12 and 12, we're in tradition number 2. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. So yesterday we were reading how maybe a senior founder of a new group, he's been there for a while and maybe he's got some folks that came with him at the very beginning. But all of a sudden there's rumblings, maybe they need a new chairperson or somebody else to organize things. How is our founder going to respond to that after the group conscience? So we're going to explore that idea some more on page 134. Now comes the election. If the founder and his friends have served well, they may, to their surprise, be reinstated for a time. If, however, they have heavily resisted the rising tide of democracy, they may be summarily beached. In either case, the group now has a so-called rotating committee, very sharply limited in its authority. In no sense whatever can its members govern or direct the group. They are servants. There is the sometimes thankless privilege of doing the group's chores. Headed by the chairman, they look after public relations and arrange meetings. Their treasurer, strictly accountable, takes money from his hat that is passed, banks it, pays the rent and other bills, and makes a regular report at business meetings. The secretary sees that literature is on the table, looks after the phone answering service, answers the mail, and sends out notices of meetings. Such are the simple services that enable the group to function. The committee gives no spiritual advice, judges no one's conduct, issues no orders. Every one of them may be promptly eliminated at the next election if they try this. And so they make the belated discovery that they are really just servants, not senators. These are the universal experiences. Thus, throughout AA, does the group conscious decree the terms upon which its leaders shall serve. Yeah, once again, we are servants. There's no one in charge. I love that about AA. You would think that would not work. But from my experience seeing how meetings are run, at least the meetings I've been to, it works beautifully. And out of the core text, more about alcoholism, on page 39, it spells it out for us. And here's our italics again, right? But the actual or potential alcoholic, with hardly an exception, will be absolutely, here's the italics, unable to stop drinking on the basis of self-knowledge. And then sure enough, the story that Fred's telling is confirmation of that. And speaking of powerful stories, the personal story real fast, I just love this last part here. So at first, our friend here, and my heart breaks for her. Sounds like she had a really hard upbringing, with struggles at school, with her father being possibly an alcoholic and very critical of her. So, my heart breaks for her. And as some of our AA friends try to guide her, our friend tells them why she drinks. She goes, I drink because my marriage was bad. And they say, that's not why. Well, I drink because I'm German. They go, yep, nope, that's not why. Finally, she goes, oh, I drink because I'm a handicap. No, that's not why you drink. And then they started to explain what alcoholism is. It's a disease. And then they shared their experience, their strength, and their hope. And we see a little bit of healing taking place here. Also, my heart breaks when the children, they say, Mom, why do you drink? But I love this last part, page 379. Handicapped is not a dirty word. I learned that I was not bad. Remember, she thought something was wrong with her and that God punished her? Here's a big one. I learned that I was not bad, that I was one of God's special children. She's here for a reason, and that God, according to this text here, had a plan for my life. The people of AA showed me how my past could and would become an asset. The worst thing that happened to us in our past could become our greatest strength to help somebody else who's still suffering. I used to beat myself up over the past, but now I thank the God of my understanding that happened to me, because that led me to sobriety, and now I can use my experience to help somebody else. And maybe I could do that today. So guys, if you're sober today, you are a miracle. And those who love you are very proud of you. If we are given another set of 24 hours, I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow.